Welcome to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm Woody Zimmerman here with Mark Skabelski of Remax Lakes. Welcome to the show.
Here we are, morning.
Good morning, and it's summer is basically it's just about here.
Just about. Hey, it's been warm, a little bit rainy off and on, but that's all right. It's greening up. Everything's greening up. It looks nice.
It is. There. Yeah, right. We're getting a lot of rain. Lots of tall grass.
Yeah.
A lot of people spending time in the yard, sprucing up their homes.
Sprucing up their yards, and a neighbor had somebody come mow their grass and blew it all in my yard.
Oh.
What the heck? I was that guy yesterday out there. Carrying on. What the heck? I got their grass to pick up in my yard, which I did. It's no big deal.
But
still,
I get it.
I want my yard to look nice. I pay somebody to mow my yard. I don't want to have to be out there cleaning somebody else's mess on my yard.
Yeah, I gotta get to that point in my life where I'm having somebody else mow my yard.
Well,
that'd be nice.
For me, it's just when you have these rain weeks, and we do. If you don't have the ability to get there and take care of it at the right time, all of a sudden I've got 3-foot high grass.
Right, and that's not good.
That's not good. So it's better. It's less stressful on the relationship with my wife and I. Just have somebody come mow it.
You're right.
It's worth what I'm paying to have it mowed.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I totally agree.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about appraisals.
Oh, very
appraisals.
Important. Yes.
So a lot of times the assumption is that if you're paying cash, you don't have to have, or you will not have, an appraisal. That's not true. If you're paying cash to buy a home, it's still within your rights to have an appraisal.
Okay.
And so let's define an appraisal. An appraisal is just the appraiser's opinion of value, fair market value of the house at that time.
Okay.
So, in order to be an appraiser, you have to be licensed. Mm-hmm. Similar to being a realtor, you have to be licensed. But you have appraisers with all varying degrees of expertise and experience.
Mm-hmm.
As an appraiser, you're licensed in the state, so you can do appraisals anywhere in the state. Now, one of the caveats in there is that you need to be familiar with the area which you're appraising in.
Oh, sure.
And I would say, we've had those discussions where I would refer a client to somebody in Indianapolis. Why would I do that? Because I don't know anything about the Indianapolis market. Can I pull the data? Yes. I can look at stats at the data just like anybody else. But if I don't know the market, I'm not doing a good job for my client at that point. So appraisers many times come, they're licensed in the state. They may be from Indy. They can look at the data, but do they truly know our market? Do they know the values on Winona Lake versus Wawasee?
Right.
The values on, Dewart Lake versus Webster? Are they that experienced in the market? And they have to sign off saying they are. So, and I sound like a disgruntled agent, right? But I'm not. What I'm saying is, if you've got the expertise and experience in the market, then by all means work that market. But if you don't take the job.
Right.
That's my point. If you don't know what you're doing in that marketplace, and again, Indy, I would have zero experience, zero knowledge. I'd be clueless about pricing a home in Indianapolis.
Right.
Don't have any idea.
Right.
An appraiser that doesn't know this market really shouldn't be working up here. And for the most part, they don't. So occasionally we do get an appraisal that you want to contest. Why do we have those? And when I say an appraisal you want to contest, the house has to appraise at the agreed upon purchase price. If you're paying cash and you're doing it, and you request an appraisal, it has to appraise at that value. If you're doing financing, it will be required by your lender, and your lender must order that appraisal. Many times people say, hey, I can order the appraisal, or I need to order the appraisal. No, your lender will order that appraisal on your behalf.
Okay.
If you are paying cash, you're welcome to order the appraisal on your own. I mean, you will, because you don't have a lender to do it for you.
Well, why does the lender do that? Because they're going with somebody that they trust and rely?
Yes. When we had the meltdown, there were banks that had preferred appraisers.
Okay.
So they would use one or two people, and that's the only people they would use. There's a benefit to that. They're experienced with them, and they know that they're qualified in the marketplace, and they've worked with them before. It's about relationships.
Okay.
Well, when we had the meltdown, they disrupted that process. Now it's pulled back some. Lenders can still have their select appraisers, so people that they're willing to work with.
Okay.
But essentially, when a mortgage company or a lender orders an appraisal, it gets tossed into a pool. Email goes out to the appraisers that are interested in the area, and they select and say, yes, I'll take that appraisal at the given price, whatever that happens to be. That's to make sure that there's no undue influence on the appraiser from the lender or from the borrower or from the seller.
Okay.
Hey, this has to appraise at this price.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that changed in the process. However, there are lenders that do have preferred appraisers, and it's a group of them. They can't just have one that they go to everybody with one.
Okay.
So it's a random process. We've got 4 or 5 options. Send it out, which appraiser wants to take it. And that's kind of like a blind draw.
All right.
So the good thing about it is their intent is to determine fair market value. What is the house worth?
Mm-hmm.
Did it appraise at the purchase price? And after the break, we'll talk a little bit more about stuff related to appraisals.
All right, more on the appraisals coming up. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Real Estate in Real Time. I'm Woody Zimmerman here with Mark Skabowski of Remax Lakes, and we're talking about appraisals. A lot of good information so far, but question for you. When I bought my house, there was a full-on appraisal. The appraiser came to the house, walked through the house, and came up with a number.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a few years ago, when rates dropped down, I did a refi, and it was a drive-by appraisal.
Mm-hmm.
I never really understood that. Why? Why was it like that?
So, a lot of reasons.
Okay.
I don't pretend to be a lender. However, having experienced one myself, we refied our house, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Appraiser didn't come out and measure. They did a desktop. They came and took pictures of the exterior of the house.
Yeah.
That's the drive-by portion.
That's what happened.
They didn't actually come in. Part of that is because the MLS data on the house is already there.
Okay.
So they've looked at pictures. They've got a lot of information out there and available.
Okay.
And what they're doing on a refi is they're comparing your house. How much value do you need to have for whatever that purpose is? I'm assuming you were refining for a lower rate.
For a lower rate,
You
yes,
had
correct.
significant equity in the house at that point.
Yes, yeah.
So what's the risk to the bank?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The bank's going to say, well, it's extremely risky for us. We need to have a full-blown appraisal.
Okay.
If there's less risk to the bank, if you're doing an equity line, if you're just refining to get a lower interest rate, and you've got 50% equity in the house,
I see.
unlikely they're going to require them to come in because the cost of a drive-by is less to you because you pay it.
Yeah.
If you're refining,
Yeah.
the risk to the bank is less because they've already got you on the hook.
Right.
And there's significant equity in the house.
Yeah.
So a drive-by, but we'll get that. People will have a refi appraisal done because they put new carpet in, they did a roof, they did whatever these things are. I've actually had clients tell me that the appraiser said, well, what's it need to appraise for to get what you need? Now,
Yeah.
I'm not disparaging the appraisers at all, because if the people were asking to get a pile of money and take the money out, they would do a full-blown, they would check the number, it would be a lot tighter.
Okay.
But if you've got a $600,000 house and you're borrowing $50,000, then you have $350,000 worth of equity in the house already.
Yeah.
The bank's not at risk of, their risk is minimal to lose, for you to default on the loan and them have to take it back.
Right.
So, but when we get sellers that say, I had a refi appraisal, it's not exactly the same as a purchase appraisal. And for that reason alone, the drive-by versus a full-blown where they come in and measure everything inside, all of those things. And typically it's what's the purpose of the refi? And the bank will make that determination. Although there are loans that if people are putting enough down, even to this day, after the crash, things tightened up significantly, they were doing a lot of no document loans, to where basically you just come in, it was almost like a signature loan.
Yeah.
You have good credit, you have good cash flow, you're borrowing the money, we'll give you the loan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that led to some of the defaults we had.
Yeah.
But there are people that if you're putting a significant percentage down, you've got great credit, good cash flow, they will waive the appraisal on a home that they're buying.
Mm-hmm.
The bank does internal work to make sure that the house will support the value.
Gotcha.
But for most buyers, a typical appraisal, it is not a property inspection, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That's many people say, well,
Sure.
I don't want to do an inspection, the appraiser will catch it. That is not the case. The only thing when you're doing an FHA, a USDA, or a VA loan, the appraiser's looking at specific requirements for those types of loans.
Mm-hmm.
But for conventional financing, typically all the appraiser is doing is, will the house support the value that is on the purchase agreement?
Gotcha. Now, assessments just came out here a couple weeks ago or so.
Yeah.
I just got mine.
Yep.
And a lot of people think like, oh, that's the value of my property.
Yeah, that's not true. Although they do use trending, they've got their own formulas. The county government's got their own formula to calculate those things. But remember, that's a year in arrears.
Mm-hmm.
It's done a year, so it's looking backwards. So it's 23 values, not 24 values.
And that's what you're paying your taxes off
That's
of.
what you're paying taxes off of. So the other thing is they're using trending. They'll use your neighborhood for trending, not necessarily similar properties.
Mm-hmm.
So an appraiser is comparing, they're looking at typically 3 actives and 3 solds that are similar: square footage, age, location, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What they're trying to do is for the bank, for the purposes of the bank, support the value that's on the purchase agreement. If it does not appraise at that value, the loan is, or the bank is only going to loan you whatever the appraised value is. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing 100% financing, the house is at $200,000 and it appraises at $190,000, the bank is only going to loan you $190,000. They're not going to loan you $200,000.
So hopefully you got that
Hopefully
money.
you have that money set
difference.
aside. 4 things that can happen: the seller reduces, you pay the difference, something in between the buyer and seller, or the deal is done.
Yeah.
If that's the only way that you can do it, trying to finance that way.
Right, but that is a good reason that you could walk away from the deal.
Yes, the appraisal is the safety net for the buyer,
Mm-hmm.
for the borrower. If it doesn't appraise, our purchase agreements say you do not have to purchase the property.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big part. There's a lot that goes into it. We just touch the surface, in a 15-minute show,
Right.
and what goes on with an appraisal. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of good appraisers in the area.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, that's what makes the wheels spin, is that we support those values. It's good for the market. It's good for the borrower to have an appraisal done.
Yeah, no, it's lots of that's a big piece, a big
Yeah.
cog in the whole process.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, you can continue this conversation with Mark. Your contact information.
Sure, the website, skabowskiteam.com. You can give me a call, 574-527-0660. Email me, mark@skabowskiteam.com.
All right, awesome. You've been listening to Real Estate in Real Time. Have yourself a wonderful weekend.